Good morning. Today we'll talk about the second approach used in gauging the reaction conditions of a pericyclic reaction. We've already discussed the OCD approach, which was very long, in which we used to draw the molecular orbital of all the reactants and all the product molecular orbitals and started correlating them with a particular symmetry operation. FMO approach is different, and the basis of FMO approach is that it does not use all the molecular orbitals, and it says that it's the valence orbitals of any reactant system which are actually involved in the reaction, and therefore why should we consider all the molecular orbitals and why not limit the consideration only to the valence orbital. Therefore, if OCD approach used all the reactant and product molecular orbitals for gauging the reaction conditions, the FMO approach, that is the frontier molecular orbital approach, is based on the fact that it is only the valence orbitals which are actually involved in the reactions. Valence orbitals, you know what is valence orbitals, the orbitals which are highest in terms of energy and are filled are valence orbitals. The low-lying energy orbitals, the orbitals which are lower in energy and are filled in nature, are more stable and they do not get involved in the reactions. And moreover, the anti-bonding orbitals, normally speaking, are very high in energy, they are empty, and obviously they do not participate in the reaction. Hence, the consideration of the FMO approach is based on the fact that consider only the interactions of the valence orbitals, do not consider the interactions of all the orbitals. Therefore, cutting it down, FMO approach is based only on the valence orbitals, and there are two types of valence orbitals which we have already discussed. The two types of valence orbitals are one called HOMO, another one called LUMO. We've already discussed this while drawing the molecular orbitals or while considering the molecular orbitals of reactants in pericyclic system. We will now discuss this thing in bit detail. The HOMO stands for the highest occupied molecular orbital. When we draw the energy level diagram in terms of energy or the placement of the orbitals in terms of energy, that orbital which is filled and is highest in energy is called HOMO, and that orbital which is empty and lowest in energy is called the LUMO. It is sometimes also called as LVMO, that is lowest vacant molecular orbital, also called as lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. These two molecular orbitals are called the frontier molecular orbitals in the FMO approach. Right. Now, it is the interaction between the HOMO and the LUMO. Let's say, for example, if we are considering a cycloaddition reaction, then in a cycloaddition reaction, we know there are two reactant systems. For example, in a Diels-Alder reaction, we have a diol and a dialophile. So, if I have two reactants, I need to consider the HOMO of one reactant and the LUMO of the another and consider their interactions. Therefore, it is the interaction between the HOMO and LUMO that contributes and is stabilizing the system. It is this interaction which is important. Largely speaking, if I say the various kinds of interactions which are possible when two reactant systems interact with one another. First interaction we've already talked about, HOMO of one reactant with the LUMO of the another. This interaction or this perturbation stabilizes the reactant system or stabilizes the system, lowers the energy of the system and therefore stabilizes it. The HOMO-HOMO interaction, that is the interaction between the filled molecular orbitals of one reactant with the filled molecular orbital of the other reactant. They normally do not stabilize, and on the other hand, they destabilize the system. Similarly, the LUMO-LUMO interaction, well, there is no interaction called LUMO-LUMO because LUMO means it is unoccupied and two unoccupied molecular orbitals actually do not exist. It's just a hypothetical orbital system where there are no electrons, they will not interact. So we are largely considering few interactions of the filled orbital HOMO with the unfilled orbital LUMO, interaction between two filled orbitals, or the third type of interaction which we can consider in this system is the interaction of the lowest lying, the most stable molecular orbital of one reactant system and the highest orbital of the second reactant system, the one which is also above the LUMO. We will consider all these interactions and see why we say that the HOMO-LUMO interaction is most stable and should be only considered while considering the FMO approach. Right. Now, again, as I've told you, the question is why. Why is the HOMO-LUMO interaction most important and why it is the one which is under consideration? Why leave the other ones? Now, to observe this thing, let's explain this observation. using the Moyle diagram. Moyle, of course, you know, is the molecular orbital energy level diagram. We consider the example of the simplest of all the cyclodicial reactions, that is the DA cyclodicial, the Diels-Alder cyclodicial reaction. And we know Diels-Alder cyclodicial reaction is a cyclodicial reaction between two components, in which one component is a butadiene, called as simply a diene also, and the second component is a ethene, or called a dienophile also. So first component is butadiene. Butadiene, we know, contributes 4 electrons, and since it contributes 4 electrons, it makes 4 molecular orbitals, out of which 2 are bonding and 2 are anti-bonding. Similarly, ethene is a 2pi electron system. Since it's a 2pi electron system, it contributes 2pi molecular orbitals, out of which 1 will be bonding and another one will be anti-bonding in nature. This we know. We also know how to draw the molecular orbitals corresponding to butadiene. We also know how to draw the molecular orbitals of the ethene molecule. Now, the FMO approach is different from the OCD approach, that in the case of OCD approach, we've drawn the reactant molecular orbitals of both the reactants. If you remember the OCD approach for cyclodicial reactions, in the case of cyclodicial reactions, in the case of Diels-Alder cyclodicial reaction, using OCD approach, we've drawn the 6 molecular orbitals corresponding to the reactant system, 4 corresponding to butadiene and 2 corresponding to ethene on the reactant system. And similarly, we have drawn 6 molecular orbitals corresponding to the product, which in this case was cyclohexene. FMO approach is different. We do not draw the molecular orbitals of the product. We are only considering, I repeat, we are only considering the interaction between the homos and LUMOs of the reactants. We do not consider the product here. Therefore, while drawing the molecular orbital energy level diagram, what I do is I'll try to explain this thing using the interaction between two components. First component of the Diels-Alder reaction was butadiene, a 4 electron system. The second component of the Diels-Alder reaction is an ethene, which is a 2pi electron system, is right. I'll draw the 4 molecular orbitals of butadiene. You remember butadiene was 4 electron system, 4 molecular orbitals are formed, psi1, psi2, psi3 and psi4. The first 2 orbitals are ground state orbitals. The psi3 star and psi4 star are the excited state orbital. The first 2 orbitals, psi1 and psi2, are bonding. The psi3 star and psi4 star are anti-bonding in nature. And since I have to place 4 electrons in the reactant system, the first 2 will go to psi1, the next 2 will go to psi2. We've already discussed this thing, I'll repeat again. In this diene system, the HOMO will be one which is filled, occupied, and highest in terms of energy. I have 2 filled orbitals, psi1 and psi2. Out of these, the highest in terms of energy, psi2. Therefore, HOMO of the diene system is psi2. Now let's talk about the dienophile system, the ethene molecule. Ethene molecule had 2pi electrons, 2 molecular orbitals are possible. One is pi, the other one is pi star. Now, if you look at this thing, again, since I have to combine 2 electrons, the first 2 electrons will go to pi1 and pi star, pi2 star will be empty in nature. Therefore, if you consider the molecular orbital, if you consider the HOMO of the dienophile, only pi1 is filled, pi2 star is empty, occupied is only pi1, therefore pi1 is HOMO, and of course unoccupied is only pi2 star, therefore LUMO is pi2 star. Now, if you clearly observe this molecular orbital energy level diagram between the diene and the dienophile before constructing the new molecular orbitals, you see that I've placed the HOMO of the dienophile lower in energy than HOMO of the diene. Now this might be a bit contradicting to the basic organic concepts we have. If you know, butadiene is a 2 pi bond system where both the pi bonds are conjugated in nature, and since they are conjugated in nature, this system should be much more stable as compared to an isolated double bond in the case of ethene. If that is the case, butadiene's energy, because of the greater stability, should be less than the energy of the ethene. But what I've drawn here is, I have drawn the HOMO of butadiene higher in energy as compared to the HOMO of the ethene. Consider this thing. HOMO of the butadiene higher in energy as compared to the HOMO of the ethene. Now, to understand this thing, when we talk about the stability of a particular molecule, as I said, butadiene should be more stable because of the conjugated pi electron system than the ethene molecule. When we talk about the stability of the system, we talk about the entire system. But when we talk about individual molecular orbitals, that can have different energies. As you can see, there were 2 filled orbitals, psi1, the most stable of the all, is lower in energy as compared to the HOMO of the dienophile ethene. Whereas psi2, that is the HOMO of the diene, is higher in energy. How do we come to this conclusion that HOMO of the dienophile is higher energy than the HOMO of the diene? HOMO of the diene is at higher energy than HOMO of the dienophile is because of the fact that certain energy calculations are done, and from those energy calculations it is found out that the HOMO of the diene is higher in energy than the HOMO of the dienophile. It is premature to say right now, but you should know that this is the truth in all kind of normal Diels-Alder cyclodicial reactions, that in all Diels-Alder cyclodicial reactions it is the HOMO of the diene which is higher in energy as compared to the HOMO of the dienophile. HOMO of diene higher energy as compared to HOMO of the dienophile. Right? We are not considering the total energy of the system, we are considering only HOMOs. Anyways, first point. Now let's consider the interactions. I'll talk about the first interaction, the HOMO interaction. Now as you can see, that means I am interacting HOMO of diene with the HOMO of the dienophile. HOMO of diene has 2 electrons, HOMO of dienophile has 2 electrons. Since 2 atomic orbitals are combining, and the law of combination of, or the linear combination of atomic orbitals law says that if 2 atomic orbitals are combined, you will end up in 2 molecular orbitals. So if psi2 and pi1 combined, you end up in 2 molecular orbitals. Let's say phi1 and phi2. Psi2 and pi1 combines, you end up in 2 molecular orbitals, phi1 and phi2. Of course, one will be bonding, another one will be anti-bonding. Since the reactant had 4 electrons, the 2 atomic orbitals which underwent an overlap had 4 electrons. I have to accommodate these 4 electrons in these newly formed 2 molecular orbitals. Obviously, the first 2 will go to phi1 and the next 2 will go to phi2. And what is the extent of stabilization this interaction has produced to the system, and the extent of destabilization it has provided to the system? This is worth consideration. If you see here, out of the HOMO of the diene and dienophile, the lower electrons were here, out of these 2. This is the amount of stabilization these 2 electrons has received. And where were these 2 electrons? Here. This is the amount, forget about this, this is the amount of destabilization these electrons have gone. What I'm trying to say is, earlier out of this 2, the lower lying were at this level of energy. Now the lower lying has gone down, that is the E1 is the extent of stabilization. And if you look at the destabilization, earlier the electrons were here of the higher of the 2 orbitals. Now the highest electron have gone here. That means this is the extent of destabilization. This is the extent of stabilization. As you can see, the extent of destabilization is more than stabilization. Therefore, this kind of interaction should not contribute to the stability of the system. And the interaction which is not contributing to the stability of the system should not be my point of consideration. So if I repeat again, there are 2 atomic orbitals in the reactant system, this one and this one, which has to combine to form 2 molecular orbitals, and reactant atomic orbitals have 4 electrons in all. Therefore, the product molecular orbital should also have 4 electrons, 2 going down, 2 going up. The amount of electrons going down in energy and stabilizing is less as compared to the destabilization which is provided. Hence, this kind of interaction, the interaction between the HOMO and HOMO, is actually HOMO of the diene with HOMO of the dienophile is actually destabilizing the system, and therefore should not be my point of consideration. Okay, so let's talk about the second interaction, that is the HOMO-LUMO interaction. Now if you consider the HOMO-LUMO interaction, that is the HOMO of the butadiene and the LUMO of the ethene, HOMO of diene with LUMO of the dienophile. Let's see what stabilization or destabilization this interaction produces. We've already talked about this thing, that these are the main interactions. Therefore, this interaction should bring stability to the system. Whether it does or not, let's see. Again, I draw the molecular orbitals of diene. Again, HOMO is psi2, right? Again, I draw the molecular orbitals of the dienophile. HOMO is pi1 and LUMO is pi2 star. This we know. Now I'm studying the interaction between, let's say, HOMO of the diene with LUMO of the dienophile. To start with, HOMO of the diene with LUMO of the dienophile. These 2 are different, are placed at different levels of energy. If they interact with one another, again, when two atomic orbitals are interacting with one another, two product molecular orbitals will be formed, one bonding, the other one is anti-bonding. Now, in the reactant molecular orbitals, only 2 electrons were present, that too in Psi2, Pi2 star was empty. That means I have to only accommodate 2 electrons in the product side also, in the product molecular orbitals. And of course, these 2 electrons will go to Phi1, Phi2 star will be empty. That means this interaction has produced a system in which the electron goes down to the extent of a stabilization of E1, and since there are no electrons in Phi2 star, there will be no destabilization. Therefore, interaction between HOMO and LUMO is providing stability to the system, and therefore this interaction should be my interaction which I should consider while considering the reaction conditions. I'll repeat what I've said again. We are talking about the HOMO-LUMO interactions. We have to study the interaction between the HOMO of one reactant with the LUMO of the other. Now, when the two atomic orbitals are combined, again 2 molecular orbitals will be formed, one bonding, another anti-bonding. I have to accommodate only 2 electrons because Psi2 had 2, Pi2 star does not have an electron. The 2 electrons will go down. There's a earlier those 2 electrons were at this level, now those 2 electrons are at this level, therefore there is an extent of stabilization. Hence, this interaction produces stability to the system. And since it is producing stability to the system, this interaction is worth my consideration. Now, in this particular case, I have considered the HOMO of diene with LUMO of dienophile. Let's reverse it. Let's take the HOMO of the dienophile and LUMO of the diene. Does this kind of interaction produces stability? Let's see. HOMO of the dienophile with LUMO of the diene. Molecular orbital of the diene and the dienophile remain same. Psi2 is HOMO. Here, Pi1 is HOMO, Pi2 star is LUMO. Right? Now I'm talking about the interaction between the LUMO of the dienophile, which is Psi3 star, with HOMO of the dienophile, which is LUMO of the diene, which is Psi3 star, with HOMO of the dienophile, which is your Pi1. Now, if you look at this interaction, again, these 2 atomic orbitals are combining, 2 new molecular orbitals will be formed, one bonding, another anti-bonding. Since the reactant had only 2 electrons, since Pi1, 2 had 2 electrons, Phi3 star didn't have an electron, I have to accommodate only 2 electrons. The 2 electrons will go in this orbital. And since there is an extent of stabilization, hence this interaction produces stability to the system, and since this interaction produces stability to the system, I have to consider this interaction while considering the FMO approach. So FMO approach is simple. Consider only that interaction or the interaction between that atomic orbitals of the reactant systems which are actually producing stability to the system. It is no point that we consider all the interactions. And since HOMO of one with LUMO of the other, take anything, take HOMO of first reactant and interact with the LUMO of the second, or vice versa, take the LUMO of the first and the HOMO of the second reactant, does not matter. Only a thing is that the reaction that the extent of stability will be provided in both cases. Now, one more point of consideration here is that, as you can see, if you look at the picture here I have shown E1 to be larger in value as compared to E1 here. Look at the size of stabilization. In this case is more, whereas in this case is small. Now, how do I decide that when there will be more stability, when there will be less stability? This is very simple. The extent of stabilization and destabilization is controlled by the extent of overlap, or you can say the extent of perturbation between the atomic orbitals. If the atomic orbitals are interacting in such a way that there is the energy gap between the 2 interacting orbitals is less. I'll repeat again. If the 2 interacting atomic orbitals energy gap is less, their extent of interaction or perturbation will be more. And if the extent of interaction or perturbation will be more, the extent of stabilization and destabilization will be more. Therefore, if the HOMO of diene and LUMO of dienophile's energy gap is small, look at the energy gap here, a small energy gap between these 2 will cause greater stabilization and greater destabilization. Since destabilize, it cannot happen because electrons are not there, therefore there will be a greater stabilization. However, in the case of HOMO of the dienophile with LUMO of the diene, the energy gap is comparatively large, and since the energy gap is large, the extent of perturbation or interaction is less, and since interaction is less, the stability provided is also less. Whatever is the extent of stability, however, the fact is that HOMO-LUMO interaction of either systems will bring stability to the system. Therefore, if I sum up what I've said here, I'd say HOMO of diene with HOMO of the dienophile is actually destabilizing the system. So it is not important. I'm not considering this interaction. Consider the HOMO of the diene with LUMO of the dienophile. Stabilizing, extent may vary. Stabilizing, therefore important, or vice versa. Consider the LUMO of the diene with HOMO of the dienophile. Again, stabilizing, important to me. And third interaction, which will not actually occur, between the LUMO of the diene and LUMO of the dienophile, this will not create stabilization or destabilization because electrons are not present, so they are not interacting as such, so not considering. Therefore, I am only considering the interaction between the HOMO of diene with LUMO of the dienophile, or vice versa, LUMO of the diene with the HOMO of the dienophile. Hence, FMO approach is basically stemming from the fact that why consider all interactions? Only HOMO-LUMO interaction, that is HOMO of the diene or the HOMO of the first component with LUMO of the second, or vice versa, HOMO of the second component with LUMO of the first component is stabilizing, and therefore only worth consideration. Therefore, these HOMO-LUMO interactions are main interactions, and in pericyclic reaction we call these interactions as frontier interactions or the first order interactions. And this is the most important interaction in the case of pericyclic reactions. All other interactions other than the frontier orbital interactions or other than the interaction between the HOMO and LUMO are secondary and are called the secondary orbital or the second order interactions, right? So we have talked about here the interaction between the HOMO-HOMO. We have talked about the interaction between HOMO-LUMO. We have talked about the interaction between HOMO of either reactants and LUMO of either reactants. I'll talk about the FMO approach with other interactions. That means, to start with in this video, I told you that we are considering the HOMO and interacting with LUMO. Why not consider the interaction between the low-lying orbital? Low-lying orbital in energy is this one. This is the LUMO. If not with HOMO but the lower-lying orbital and this interacts, what will happen? Again, two atomic orbitals are combining, two molecular orbitals will be formed, one bonding, another anti-bonding. Since the reactant system only had 2 electrons here there were no electrons, I have to combine only 2 electrons, so there will be a stabilization. Again, the extent of stabilization depends upon the extent of interaction of these two atomic orbitals, and the extent of interaction of these two atomic orbitals depends upon their energy gap. When we consider the lower lying orbital's interaction with the higher lying orbital, the energy gap is large, and since the energy gap is large, the extent of stabilization or destabilization is also small, and therefore even though this interaction is stabilizing the system, but the extent of stability provided is not as high as the interaction between HOMO and the LUMO, where the energy gap is comparatively small. Therefore, we are also not considering this interaction, that is the interaction between the lower lying orbitals, filled orbitals, with the vacant orbitals. This may be stabilizing, but the extent of stability provided is very less. Therefore, the interaction of the lower lying orbitals, that is in this case psi 1, with the highest energy orbitals, as example in this case is pi 2, of the another process also brings stabilization. And as I've told you, the extent of stabilization depends upon the extent of perturbation or interaction, which in turn depends upon the energy similarity of the reactant orbitals. That means how close are these on their energy levels. Therefore, psi 1 and pi 2 star, we are talking about this interaction, psi 1 and pi 2 star. Therefore, psi 1 and pi 2 star have substantial energy gap between the two. Hence, interaction or perturbation is less, and therefore the extent of stabilization is also small. The energy gap is large, interaction is less, stabilization is less. On the contrary, if you have, let's say, psi2 and pi2 star, this were actually the HOMO and the LUMO, HOMO of diene with LUMO of the dienophile, the energy gap is the smallest. And since the energy gap is the smallest, we can say this interaction will bring greater stability to the system and hence is the one under consideration. Therefore, repeating again, the most important interaction is the HOMO of the reactant with the LUMO of the other reactant, and even as I told you, even with HOMO-LUMO interaction, that HOMO-LUMO interaction would be more stabilizing, which is smaller energy gap. What do I mean to say here? If you look here, as in this case, HOMO of diene and LUMO of the dienophiles, energy gap is less. See the difference. Therefore, this should be more stabilizing, whereas HOMO of the dienophile and LUMO of the dienophile's energy gap is large. Therefore, the extent of the stability provided by this interaction would be less as compared to the extent of stability provided by this and this interaction, because the energy gap is small. Right, so we'll extend this basic information, that why consider all molecular orbitals, why not consider only the HOMOs of one reactant with the LUMOs of the other reactant, and not consider all molecular orbital, is the basis of the frontier molecular orbital approach. Now we'll apply this FMO approach on cyclodecision reactions. What do we need to do while working on an FMO approach and gauging the reaction conditions? Okay, so when applying the HOMO-LUMO interactions, the first point is that HOMO-LUMO interactions are only to be considered, as I've told you, and no other interaction is considered. Also, the interaction has to be considered only on the reactant system. We do not need to consider the interaction on the product side. So we are considering the interactions of the HOMO of one reactant with the LUMO of the other. We are not considering product here as what we did in the case of OCD approach. Right, now what next is needed? We need to draw the molecular orbitals of the first reactant, not all, but which molecular orbital? HOMO of first reactant, and then draw the LUMO of the other reactant, or vice versa. Means draw HOMO of the one reactant and LUMO of the other, or LUMO of this reactant and HOMO of this reactant. Whatever way you can draw both, or you can draw single only. There will be no difference in the reaction results. Okay, then once we have drawn the HOMO of one reactant with LUMO of the other, then we need to look out for bonding overlap between the terminal lobes of each reactant system after considering the stereochemical mode. What does it mean? Now, we've drawn HOMO of one reactant, we've drawn the LUMO of the other reactant. We know it is the terminal lobes of the reactant system which actually undergo overlap to form the sigma bonds, as in the case of cyclodecision reactions. Now what we need to do is, we need to draw the HOMO, we need to draw the LUMO, and then try to understand the interactions they are having with one another. That means, are they having bonding interaction with each other, or are they having anti-bonding interactions with one another, considering what stereochemical mode is followed. And if you remember, in the case of cyclodecision reactions, we've considered two stereochemical modes. One was suprafacial, another one was antarafacial. Okay. Now, next point is, under thermal conditions, since we have to check the reaction under two conditions, thermal or photochemical. Under thermal conditions, remember, no excitation occurs, therefore HOMOs are ground state orbitals. So we are not exciting the electrons under thermal conditions. That is simple to understand. That means HOMOs and LUMOs which we are drawing all correspond to the ground state molecular orbitals. But importantly, if you talk about the photochemical conditions. Now under photochemical condition, we have to excite one reactant only. Of course, in cyclodecision reactions, we know there are two reactants. We need to excite while undergoing a photochemical or while studying a photochemical reaction. We need to excite only one reactant, not both of them. So either we can excite the first reactant or we can excite the second reactant. That is first important point. And the electrons get excited from the valence ground state orbital and shifts to the higher orbital, obviously. Now upon excitation, the ground state orbital from where the electron has excited now contains one electron, and we give the SOMO terminology to this. SOMO means singly occupied molecular orbital. And the excited state to which was earlier vacant and now gets one electron upon excitation is called SOMO dash. So both the orbitals SOMO and SOMO dash corresponds to singly occupied molecular orbital. One is at lower value of energy from which the electrons got excited. The other was initially vacant and now one electron after excitation has reached this molecular orbital. Now the SOMO dash, that is higher energy orbital, is considered as the new HOMO, and it is the bonding interaction of this orbital which has to be studied with the LUMO of the other. I'll repeat this point again, this is important. What does it mean? Under photochemical conditions, if I'm talking about a cycloaddition reaction, I know I have two reactants. Now considering two reactants, under photochemical conditions, only one reactant will get excited, nothing will happen to the second reactant. This is because of the fact that upon photochemical reactions, we strike one molecule with a photon of light, therefore excitation will occur in one molecule only. Once an electron gets excited to the higher orbital, the orbital from which the electron got excited is now singly occupied, and the orbital to which the electron got excited again is singly occupied. So both are called SOMOs, singly occupied molecular orbital. The one which is lower in energy from which the electron got excited is called SOMO. The one to which the electron got excited and was earlier vacant is called SOMO dash. So SOMO dash is one which is now half filled but higher in energy as compared to the other orbital. Therefore, now the new HOMO under photochemical conditions is the SOMO dash orbital. And it is this orbital's interaction, because this is now HOMO, it is this orbital's interaction which has to be considered with the LUMO of the second interactive system. Now, last thing before I get to the next point, it is important that whenever we are considering photochemical reactions, we only draw the HOMO of the one which got excited. Normally speaking, I told you earlier that HOMO of one reactant with LUMO of the other, or vice versa, LUMO of the first with the HOMO of the second. Any orbital you can choose and make HOMO or LUMO. But under photochemical conditions, remember, we always take the HOMOs of the reactant system which got excited and not of the reactant system which did not got excited. You'll get to know this point much more as you do the reactions. And finally, if there is a bonding interaction between the HOMO and LUMO orbitals either in the thermal conditions or under photochemical conditions, that reaction is allowed. If there is any anti-bonding interaction which is encountered in a particular stereochemical mode, that reaction will be forbidden in nature. So I repeat what I've told you. FMO approach is basically based on the fact in the case of cycloadditions that draw HOMO-LUMO interaction or consider only HOMO-LUMO interaction, draw HOMO of one reactant and LUMO of the other, or vice versa, HOMO of the first with LUMO of the second, or LUMO of the first with HOMO of the second. Okay, then look out at the bonding interactions between these two orbitals considering the stereochemical mode. Then under thermal conditions, consider only the ground state orbitals. Under photochemical conditions, excite only one orbital. The ones which got excited, HOMO of that orbital is only to be considered and LUMO of the other one is to be considered. Once we have understood the orbital system, then consider the overlap. If there is a bonding overlap, that particular reaction is allowed. If there is an anti-bonding overlap even at single orbital system, that particular reaction is forbidden according to the FMO approach. Let's explain this with the help of two formulas. First, we'll talk about the dimerization of ethene. If you remember, we've already done this example using the OCD approach. We know, if you remember, that supra-supra interaction of two ethene components was thermally forbidden and photochemically allowed. Can we reach at the same result using FMO approach? I have to see this thing. So therefore, to build on this system, let's work on this. Ethene dimerization, that means I have two ethene molecules. One reactant is ethene, second one is also ethene. Of course, ethene is a 2pi electron system. So I have one ethene as 2pi electron system, other ethene as 2pi electron system. If ethene is a 2pi electron system, two molecular orbitals will be formed. One is bonding, another one is anti-bonding. There we have to combine two electrons. Two electrons will go to first orbital, that is pi1. Pi2 star will be empty. Therefore, HOMO is pi1 star and LUMO will be pi2 star as far as one ethene reactant is considered. Okay, first I will consider this reaction under thermal conditions. Let's go step by step. What do I need to do? I need to draw HOMO of one ethene and LUMO of the other ethene. First ethene, let's say I draw HOMO. HOMO is what? Pi 1. Pi 1 didn't had a node, pi star has one node. So if I'm drawing HOMO of one ethene, there should not be any node. That means same faces should have same sign. Now here I'm changing the signs, the nature of the signs from what I did in the case of orbital diagrams or the orbitals which I've drawn in the case of pericyclic reactions. Earlier, if you remember, I used to put positive signs on the above side and negative side on the lower side. Does not matter which side you put positive and negative side. Important is if it is a HOMO molecular orbital, if it is pi molecular orbital which did not have a node, there should not be any node. So if it is positive here, no node, this should be positive here, this should be the shape of the orbital, HOMO of one reactant interacting with the LUMO of the second. What is the LUMO of second? LUMO of the second is pi star, had one node here. Now I try to keep this orbital's sign, lower phase sign, and this reactant's, this orbital's lower phase lobe sign, and this reactant's, this orbital's upper phase sign similar. So one thing I can do is I can keep a similar sign. Since there is one node will come here. If there is a node, this will be negative, right? So this is my reactant system. Now next step is, what I've done is I've drawn the HOMO of one reactant, I've drawn the LUMO of the other interaction. Now I need to study which stereochemical mode I'm talking about. Let's say I'm talking about the first stereochemical mode, that is supra-supra interaction. If it is suprafacial interaction, that means this component should add in a suprafacial manner and this component should also add in a suprafacial manner. And suprafacial means this component's same lobes should add, and suprafacial on this means this component's same lobes should add. So if it is lower lobes for this reactant and upper lobes for this reactant, lower both lobes are adding, so suprafacial here, upper both lobes are adding, so suprafacial here. Let's see what kind of interaction does it produce. Positive overlaps with positive, bonding interaction. This positive overlaps with this negative for a supra-supra interaction, and once positive overlaps with the negative, there is an anti-bonding interaction, and since there is an anti-bonding interaction, even if one also, this reaction becomes forbidden. So I say this is a forbidden process. Under what reaction conditions? I've not excited anything, therefore these are thermal conditions, and the thermal conditions supra-supra 2+2 cycloaddition reaction is thermally forbidden. Right. Let's talk about the second stereochemical mode, supra and tara. Same reactant HOMO, same reactant LUMO, same orbital picture. See, 0 node, 1 node, same orbital picture. This component first is adding in a suprafacial manner. That means similar lobes are adding. This component second is adding in an antarafacial manner. That means opposite faces are adding. So this is adding with this one is adding with this. This is a supra and tara process. I'll repeat again. Supra for this, same lobes adding, and tara for this, opposite lobes adding. So positive interaction here. This positive interacts with this lower lobe, it has positive. That means both sides there is a bonding overlap, and since there is a bonding interaction, this process is thermally allowed. So what I can say, ethene dimerization under thermal conditions in a supra and tara facial stereochemical mode is a thermally allowed process. Let's look at the third thing, the antara supra. Now as you remember in the previous case also, whatever is the result for supra and tara, same result will be there for antara supra. Whatever is the result for supra, the same result will be there for antara. Let's see this thing. Antara facial on first component, suprafacial on the second. HOMO LUMO still remaining the same. This is HOMO 0 node, LUMO 1 node, same. Antara on first, that means this lobe and this lobe should be adding, opposite lobe should be adding. Supra on second, that means same lobe should be adding. So the positive interacts with positive. Here negative interacts with negative. This is bonding interaction on both reactant, both lobes. Therefore this is a allowed process. And consider antara as the last stereochemical mode here. See, once we consider antara, again orbital system is same. HOMO 0 node, LUMO 1 node. Orbital system in all these systems are same. See antara facial. Antara on first component, opposite faces should add. Antara on the second component, opposite faces should add. Positive overlaps with positive, bonding. Negative overlaps with the lower one is positive, therefore there is antibonding interaction, and since there is antibonding interaction, this process is a forbidden process. Therefore, I have worked out using the FMO approach that under thermal conditions it is the supra-Antara or Antara-supra process which is allowed, and supra-supra or Antara-Antara process is forbidden. Now let's check the reaction conditions under photochemical conditions. Now when considering the photochemical conditions, under photochemical conditions, again as I told you, one electron from one reactant out of the two, one electron from one reactant's HOMO shifts to higher orbital, nothing happens to the second reactant. So if I'm saying one ethene molecule, there are two atomic orbitals corresponding to one ethene molecule, one was pi, another one was pi 2 star. It had this electron in the ground state. Once a photon of light struck this molecule, one electron from the ground state got excited to the high energy. So this is SOMO, this is SOMO dash. We consider SOMO dash as HOMO, as I've told you before. This is the electronic picture for the reactant which got photochemically excited. But remember, as I've told you, under photochemical conditions, one reactant will get excited, nothing will happen to the second reactant. If that is the case, let's look at the various possible interactions. Okay, now sum it up in a smaller way. Remember, when we are taking photochemical conditions, the HOMO is always corresponding to the reactant which got photochemically excited. So HOMO for the one reactant which got photochemically excited should be pi 1 star, and we know pi 2 star, which we know has 1 node for the system which got excited. So this is the difference between thermal and photochemical reaction. Earlier, HOMO in the case of thermal reaction was pi 1 with 0 nodes, but now here in the photochemical condition, the HOMO of that reactant is chosen, which got excited. Therefore HOMO becomes pi 2 star and has 1 node. LUMO already was pi 2 star. This component did not got excited, so it is same to the ground state. This is pi 2 star, has 1 node. If it has 1 node, let's say if this is positive, 1 node means here will be negative sign. If this is already pi 2 star, if this is positive, as I customary for me to say, keep the signs of these two lobes same. This is 1 node. If this is 1 node, I'll keep this will have the negative sign. Now let's study the interaction. Same orbital picture will be there for all 4 stereochemical mode, whether I'm considering supra-supra, supra-Antara, Antara-supra or Antara-Antara. See, again, HOMO, because under photochemical conditions, one electron got jumped from pi 1 to pi 2 star. Pi 2 star becomes SOMO star, and SOMO dash, and SOMO dash is now the new HOMO. Pi 2 star had 1 node, 1 node's orbital picture is this. Second reactant LUMO, second reactant did not got excited. LUMO is still pi 2 star, 1 node. This is the orbital picture, and the orbital picture is same for all stereochemical modes. Okay, now let's check the interaction. Supra-supra, supra on both components. So same lobes adding for this one, same lobes adding for this one. Positive interacts with positive, negative with the negative. There is a bonding interaction, and since there is a bonding interaction, this reaction is allowed. What interaction is allowed? Supra-supra. Now supra-Antara. Supra on this component, Antara on this component. See, positive interacts with positive. This will interact with the lower lobe. Since it is interacting with the lower lobe, positive interacts with negative. There is an anti-bonding interaction. The process is forbidden. Antara-supra, same result as in the case of supra-Antara. Antara-supra means this component ending in an antara-facial manner, this component ending in a suprafacial manner. Antara-facial means positive interacts with positive, this positive interacts with negative. Again, there is an anti-bonding interaction. Process is forbidden. Antara-Antara, same result as supra-supra. See, Antara means opposite faces of one reactant. Antara means opposite faces of the second reactant. So positive interacts with positive, this positive interacts with this positive. This process is having bonding interactions. Hence, we say that this process is thermally allowed. Again, remember, this is important, this consideration is extremely important, that under photochemical conditions, HOMO should be of the component which got excited upon irradiation. HOMO should never be of the component which did not got excited. HOMO should be always corresponding to the component which got excited. Hence, we can say, summing up this reaction, we can say 2 plus 2 pi cyclodecision reactions Under suprafacial condition, if no stereochemical mode, as you know, has been mentioned, that means this reaction will be following a suprafacial mode of cyclodation. This is thermally forbidden and photochemically allowed. Do you remember the selection rule? If I draw that selection rule for you again, remember 4Q plus 2 systems, thermal, photochemical. How did we made those selection rules? Remember, 4Q plus 2, the Diels-Alder reaction. Thermal condition, supra allowed. This is all I need. Other ones I'll construct. If this is supra, the same will be for Antara. Diagonally it will be same. Supra, Antara. Adjacent will be different. So this will be supra, Antara, or Antara, supra. Again diagonal will be same. So it is supra, Antara, and Antara, supra. See, the result which we got here is absolutely matching with the result we got in the OCD approach, the result we could predict with the help of the selection rules. So this is something regarding the first example in which we have taken ethene dimerization as the basis of working out the reaction condition using the FMO approach. Now we'll take the second example here and we'll talk about the DA cyclodation, that is the Diels-Alder cyclodation reaction, and we'll check that under what reaction condition will this reaction be allowed. I already know from the knowledge of my OCD approach and the knowledge of my selection rules that DA cyclodation reaction is a thermally loud reaction. If it is thermally loud, obviously I'm talking about the reaction conditions in which I'm talking about the stereochemical mode, which is supra. Here, with the help of FMO approach, I'll try to work out all stereochemical modes and check the reaction condition. Okay, let's get started. Two components in the DA cyclodation reaction. One is a diene, another one is a dienophile. Diene is a 4-electron system. Dienophile is a 2-electron system. It's a 4 plus 2 cyclodation reaction between butadiene and ethene, forming a cyclohexene molecule. We'll talk about two perspectives here. First of all, thermal conditions and then the photochemical conditions. Okay. Even in thermal conditions, we'll talk about two variations. First, we'll take the HOMO of the diene and LUMO of the dienophile, and in second case, we'll take the HOMO of the dienophile with LUMO of the diene. Let's get started. Okay, we'll do it fast. Diene, 4-electron system, and in this 4-electron systems, there will be 4 molecular orbitals: Psi1, Psi2, Psi3, Psi4. First 2 electrons will go to Psi1, the next 2 electrons will go to Psi2, HOMO will be Psi2, LUMO will be Psi3 star. Easily workable. Second, ethene, already done this system. 2 pi electrons, 2 molecular orbitals, pi1 and pi2 star. Pi1 is HOMO, pi2 star is LUMO. Simple. Okay. In first condition, under thermal conditions, considering first case, we'll take the HOMO of the diene and LUMO of the dienophile. That means HOMO of butadiene and LUMO of ethene. Okay, let's get started. HOMO of butadiene, HOMO of diene and LUMO of dienophile. What is the orbital picture? HOMO of diene is Psi2. Psi2 has one node, and since it is at one node, the one node will come here. LUMO of dienophile has one node will come here. What is the orbital picture? I'll try to keep the first positive down. So if it is positive, this will be positive. Node comes negative. Other I can create. This is positive, this will be negative, this is positive, this will be negative, this is negative, this will be positive, this negative, this will be positive. Constructing a LUMO, pi2 star for ethene has one node. I keep the same sign here as customary. If there is one node, this will be negative here. Okay. And same orbital picture will be true or same for all 4 stereochemical modes, whether it is supra, Antara, or the supra, supra, or Antara modes. Same. Okay. Let's check the supra interaction first. Supra on this component, same lobes adding. Supra on the second component, same lobe adding. This interacts with this, bonding overlap. This interacts with positive, bonding overlap. Negative interacts with negative, bonding overlap. Since we have a bonding overlap, this process is thermally allowed. Let's check the second one, the supra and Antara. Supra on first component, Antara on the second. So supra on first means lower lobes are adding, and Antara on the second means opposite lobes are adding. Positive interacts with positive. Here the negative will interact with positive, therefore there is an antibonding interaction, and since there is an antibonding interaction, this process will be thermally forbidden. Third case, Antara-supra. First component adding in an antarafacial manner, second component, that is the dienophile, adding in a suprafacial manner. Positive interacting with positive, antarafacial means this positive has to interact with this negative, there is an antibonding interaction, hence this process is forbidden. Antara. Opposite lobes adding for the diene, opposite lobes adding for the dienophile, positive interacts with positive, this positive interacts with this positive, hence this is a bonding overlap, the reaction is allowed. So we have considered under thermal conditions, first case we have taken the HOMO of the diene and LUMO of the dienophile. Now we'll consider the second case in which we have taken the HOMO of the dienophile with LUMO of the diene. Diene's LUMO would be what? Psi 3 because diene had to accommodate 4 electrons. First 2 will go to Psi 1, next 2 will go to Psi 2. Psi 3 and Psi 4 will be empty. Psi 3 will be LUMO. Psi 3 had 2 nodes. Dienophile's HOMO has to be taken. HOMO is pi 1 in this case, which does not have a node. So how do I construct the shape of these molecular orbitals? LUMO for diene, Psi 3 having 2 nodes. Where will the 2 nodes come? Here and here. How do I keep the signs here? If this is plus, as I keep always in the case of cycloaddition, one node here means minus, no node minus, one node here means plus. If this is plus, this becomes minus, this minus, this plus, this minus, this plus, this plus is this minus. Okay. HOMO here, that means no node means if this is plus, this is also be plus. Okay. Let's consider the supra-supra interaction. Let's consider the supra-supra interaction now. Now once we consider the supra-supra interaction, positive overlaps with positive, positive with positive, a bonding overlap, reaction is allowed. Let's consider the supra and tara. Supra on this component, positive interacts with positive, and tara on this component means opposite lobes will add. So positive interacts with positive, negative interacts with, this positive interacts with negative, and since positive is interacting with negative, there is an anti-bonding overlap, hence the process is forbidden. The same result will be for antara-supra. Antara-facial on diene means opposite faces are adding. Suprafacial on dienophile means same faces are adding. Positive interacts with positive, negative interacts with positive. Here is an anti-bonding interaction. Process is forbidden. Take antara-facial. This component adding in opposite face, this component adding in opposite face. Positive with positive, negative with negative, bonding interaction allowed. Same result for supra-supra, similar result for antara-antara, same result for supra-antara, and same result for antara-supra. Therefore, we can sum up. We have taken under thermal condition 2 cases. First case, we have taken the HOMO of the diene with LUMO of the dienophile, and second case, we have taken HOMO of the dienophile with LUMO of the diene. Whatever case you take, the reaction conditions were same. Therefore, either choose HOMO of the diene with LUMO of the dienophile or HOMO of the dienophile with LUMO of the diene. Reaction conditions do not alter, they remain same. Therefore, we can say that this Diels-Alder reaction under supra-supra condition is thermally allowed, and the supra-antara condition or antara-supra condition is thermally forbidden reaction. This was the first case where we have considered thermal conditions. Once we consider the photochemical conditions, that would mean under photochemical conditions, we have to excite one reactant. Therefore, one reactant gets excited. Therefore, if diene gets excited, we have two possibilities. Since we had two reactants, there are two possibilities. One was a diene, another one was a dienophile. If diene gets excited, let's say HOMO, diene gets excited. Diene had 4 electrons. First 2 were there in Psi 1, next 2 were there in Psi 2. Photon of light struck diene. 1 electron from Psi 2 got excited to Psi 3 star. Now, if diene gets excited, HOMO becomes Psi 3 star. So HOMO dash or HOMO becomes Psi 3 star. And if dienophile gets excited, in dienophile I have only 2 electrons. First 2 electrons will go to pi 1, pi 2 star will be empty. But if a photon of light strikes, 1 electron from pi 1 will go to pi star, pi 2 star, and therefore your dienophile gets excited. Pi 2 star would be the HOMO here. An important thing, as I've told you before also, HOMO is always considered for the reactant that gets excited. HOMO is always considered for the reactant that gets excited. We do not consider HOMO for the reactant which remains in the ground state. Therefore, let's take out two conditions here. First, we'll take the HOMO of the diene with LUMO of the dienophile, and then we'll take the HOMO of the dienophile with LUMO of the diene. If I'm taking HOMO of the diene, that means HOMO has always to be considered for the component which gets excited. Therefore, in this particular case, diene gets excited, right? Okay, let's consider the orbital picture here. HOMO of the diene gets excited. HOMO in the ground state was psi2, but once the electron struck the HOMO of the diene, the electron got excited to psi3 star, and now the new HOMO is psi3 star. Now the new HOMO is psi3 star, and psi3 star has how many nodes? 2 nodes. 2 node means one here and one here. If I have to put the signs here, I have a plus here, node comes negative, negative, a node comes plus. And if this is plus, this is minus, this minus, this plus, this minus, this plus. If this is plus, this will be minus. Right. This is the orbital picture of for the HOMO of the diene. Once diene gets excited, LUMO of the dienophile. Dienophile's LUMO will be pi2 star having one node. If this is plus, I have to put a node here. This will be minus. If this is plus, this will be minus. This is minus. This is plus. And the same orbital picture would be carried for all stereochemical modes. Okay. Once it is done, let's try to work out the stereochemical modes, and let's check the bonding or anti-bonding overlap. Now let's check the supra-supra interaction first. Supra on diene, supra on dienophile. Positive interacts with positive, positive interacts with negative. There is an anti-bonding overlap. Since anti-bonding overlap is there, this process is forbidden. Supra and tara, supra on diene and tara facial on dienophile. Positive interacts with positive, positive interacts with positive, there is a bonding overlap, hence this process is allowed. And tara facial on the diene and suprafacial on the dienophile. Positive interacts with positive, here this negative interacts with this negative, hence there is a bonding overlap, hence this process is allowed. And tara on the dienophile and tara on the diene. And tara, that means plus interacts with plus, here this minus interacts with plus, there is an anti-bonding overlap, hence this process is forbidden. So we've seen in this particular example that under photochemical conditions, the supra-supra process is forbidden and the supra and tara process is allowed, and this is the reverse of the reaction conditions which we got under thermal conditions. Let's try out the second possibility, where we'll take the HOMO of the dienophile with LUMO of the diene. If you consider the second possibility, where we take the LUMO of the diene and HOMO of the dienophile, of course, we have to take the HOMO of that component which got excited. Therefore, in this particular case, it is the dienophile which gets excited. And again, if dienophile got excited, dienophile had two electrons were there in pi1, pi2 star was empty. Upon irradiation of light, one electron from pi1 would go to pi2 star. Therefore, our new HOMO upon excitation for the dienophile is pi2 star. Therefore, my HOMO for the dienophile is pi2 star. Okay. If I'm taking HOMO for the dienophile, I have to take LUMO for the diene. If I'm taking HOMO for the dienophile, I have to take the LUMO for the diene. Now, how do I draw LUMO? LUMO for the diene. Diene never got excited, so diene's LUMO still remains psi3 star, has two nodes. How do I draw the two nodes like this? This is same of what we did previously. So if I have two nodes, positive, a node comes negative, negative, a node comes positive, and opposite signs here. HOMO, pi2 star, having one node means a positive here and a negative here. And the same orbital picture will be carried on onto all stereochemical modes. And as you can see, supra-supra interaction. Supra on this component, supra on this, positive interacts with positive, positive with negative is anti-bonding, and this process is forbidden. Supra and tara, supra on this and tara on this, positive with positive, positive with positive bonding, allowed. And tara supra and tara on this, supra on this, and tara on this, supra on this, bonding and bonding overlap, hence this process is allowed. And tara on this component and tara on this component, bonding overlap, plus with plus, minus with plus is an anti-bonding overlap, hence this process is a forbidden process. Therefore, under photochemical conditions, the result remains same. That means supra-supra condition, supra-supra stereochemical mode under photochemical conditions was was disallowed or forbidden, and supra and para was an allowed process. And whatever we choose, you choose the HOMO of the diene with the LUMO of the dienophile or vice versa, choose the LUMO of the diene with HOMO of the dienophile, the reaction conditions remains the same. So this is a way to work out the cyclodecision reactions. This is the way to gauge the reaction conditions of a cyclodecision reaction using the FMO approach. Remember, while considering the FMO approach, we always consider the HOMOs and the LUMOs. Remember, under thermal conditions, it is the ground state orbitals which are interacting. Remember, under photochemical conditions, only one reactant gets excited, and the reactant which gets excited, the HOMO of that reactant only needs to be considered. We do not need to consider the HOMO of the other reactant. We have to only consider the bonding interaction between the combining lobes. If there is any anti-bonding interaction which is encountered, that particular process will be forbidden. With all bonding interactions, the process will be allowed. The same result we got in the case with the help of OCD approach. The same result could be predicted with the help of the selection table or the selection rules. Therefore, FMO approach could be comparatively much more simpler in gauging out the reaction conditions. In next class, we'll still continue with the FMO approach using another example in cyclodecision reactions, and then we will move towards explaining the FMO approach in the case of electrocyclic reactions. Thank you so much.